Hey, everybody. Happy Friday, December 27th. My name is David Sikorsky, coming to you to give you an update on what CCA Maryland's been up to wrap up 2024, ways that you can enter to win for a sweepstakes. And I've got some updates on striped bass and menhaden and what we have on tap for 2025. So thank you for joining me. As always, visit ccamd.org, which is scrolling across the bottom for everything CCA Maryland. And be sure to follow us on social media as well. We're active on Instagram and Facebook with a YouTube channel as well that can show you lots of different things about CCA Maryland and what we do throughout the year. And I want you to be thinking about how you can get involved with our work, whether it be habitat, advocacy, building our chapters, connecting with youth and family, connecting people to going fishing, and to our wonderful resources. We want to do it all, but we can't do it all without your support. And so whether you choose to become a financial supporter or just a volunteer that can provide your time or any mix of the two, we want to see you in 2025 more than we saw you in 2024. So thank you all. And the great opportunity, again, to get involved is to head over to our website and check everything out. You can see our events that are coming up are right here on our calendar. You can subscribe to them. You can also check out some recent news down here. And before I scroll along too far, I want to highlight January 10th is the Chesapeake Bay Boat Show. We will be out there with our Kids Corner, and we'll be there from the 10th to the 12th with a special happy hour on the 11th. And so make sure you check us out. We'll have some Instagram influencers out there talking about the work they're doing to introduce people to fishing and getting involved themselves and catching the blue catfish all throughout the DC area. And so across the 3 days, we'll have different drink specials. Jimmy's Famous Seafood is there serving up some food. DNR is there, Fish Hunt Maryland, Maryland's Best Seafood, you name it. Make sure you come out to the Chesapeake Bay Boat Show at some point, January 10th to 12th, but we highly recommend January 11th for our happy hour. Find your next boat, catch up, get some new gear, talk tips with people, and just connect at a great facility led by the Marine Trades of Baltimore that we're so happy to be part of. So we'll hope to see you there in early January. And so talking about wrapping up our year, we actually just finished up a project that you might have seen news on down here. We just splashed 140 reef balls into Eastern Bay. It says Eastern Bay Reef Site gets a holiday gift. And here's some images provided to us by Coastal Media. Thank you to Coastal Media for coming out and giving folks a different view of this work we do. This is the team at McGuire Marine, which placed 140 reef balls at the Hollicot's Noose Reef Site in Lower Eastern Bay. So if you imagine Kent Island, it's just a little bit east of Kent Point and just south of Long Point, right there in that little bottom portion of Kent Island. It's in about 15 to 25 feet of water. I know it's a popular spot with a grassy shelf right up to the side, and of course oysters and clams around. There's always going to be fish at this site, and we decided to enhance it here before the year was out. This was our 8th reef deployment of the year, or project deployment of the year in total. We started the year in January with the VMRC at Gwynn's Island. We just finished another one of those in October, and then Hollicot's Noose last week. And so that's 3. We have Noah's Reef, which we put over in May. Tangier Sound received a lot of material at the Curtis Johns Memorial Reef, the triangle-shaped one, right down there by the state line earlier in the year. That was pyramids that were made of pipe by the team at Ocean City Reef Foundation. So the big pipe bundles that you'll see Captain Monty place in the ocean, those were also placed at the Curtis John Reef this year. And our role in that is working with the Maryland Artificial Reef Initiative and other volunteers to make sure that work is completed on time. We also deployed at the Chesapeake Beach site over 200 reef balls at the end of October, and some reef balls were also placed at the Hillsmere shoreline in the South River by the team at Resource Restoration Group. So kudos to them for involving CCA and some reef balls built by student partners in their projects. Again, 8 different projects that happened throughout the year this year as part of the Living Reef Action Campaign and our role of leading the Maryland Artificial Reef Initiative. We couldn't do that work unless we were working around our state building reef balls, and that's where the Living Reef Action Campaign comes into play. The Living Reef Action Campaign completed 34 different 2-day reef ball building activities, plus we loaned out some equipment to folks and have partners building at tech centers in Salisbury and in Westminster. And so as you see on the screen right now, we're looking to build a Living Reef Action Campaign trailer for the Eastern Shore. And so we put together a pledge campaign that you can get involved in today or at any point to support, to spread the word, and let people know that we're trying to come across more Eastern Shore schools, work with more community groups in 2025 and beyond. And we have to start that by investing in equipment. Thanks to our friends at Gillespie Precast and leadership of Jim Talbot We were able to raise over a quarter, 25% of the funds so far. It's not reflected on the screen right now, but will be soon. So thank you to all our great partners that have met their matching funds that Gillespie provided and that have made a pledge of some funds that are on the way. Again, we have some distance to cover to get this trailer operational, but I'm hopeful we can do this by the spring. And we just received some great news that we received a grant to do some work in Caroline County with the town of Federalsburg and Greensboro, building reef balls and connecting kids to fishing in 2025. So we better get raising some money for this reef ball trailer and get this thing on the road. Of course, our other 2 reef ball trailers are committed to Calvert County Public Schools, working with every single 5th grader in Calvert County, and the majority of 4th graders in Carroll County, as well as their tech center. And so we have a green trailer and a blue trailer, and we're ready to hit the road with one on the Eastern Shore as well. We also have additional resources we loan out. And so there's lots of different ways partners can get involved in the Living Reef Action Campaign. And so reach out anytime. Information at ccamd.org is one way to get in touch, or me personally, David at ccamd.org, to see how you can help lead a campaign and help support this. Simple things like donations of tools and parts that we can place in this trailer is really helpful in cutting our costs. The trailers are wrapped. If you have a company that does that kind of work and would like to partner with us, that's another way you can help cut our costs and get this trailer on the road more quickly to hit the ground running with a lot of friends. Also in 2025, speaking of the Eastern Shore, we do have some reef balls ready to go that as soon as a permit is approved by the Maryland Department of the Environment, we will have some reef balls hitting the the Clint Waters Reef Site, the Clint Waters Reef Site at Cooks Point. Some of these reef balls have been sitting in Cambridge for quite some time. Others are stored up in Graysonville, and we're excited to be sure to hit that site in 2025 because I can't imagine the permit's going to take any longer. But ultimately, I'm proud of the work we do throughout the year to juggle where we're building reef balls, who's working with us, how we're investing in that, where they're being stored, and then how they're being deployed to make your next favorite fishing spot. So that's the habitat stuff that we're doing, and we want you involved in that in 2025. And so I want to highlight a chance for you to win something before the year is up by being a member. So you'll hear me say all the time, join us, join us, join us. It's literally what our stickers say. They're too far away to reach. Join CCA. Well, we're asking you this year to join us and get a chance to win something. Oh, shucks. But you have to do it before the end of the year. So if you become a member, you join for a year, you get 1 entry into the drawing. If you join for a 3-year membership, you get 3. If you renew for a year, you get 1. If you renew for 5 years, you get 5. I think you get the point. Every year of membership that you add to your CCA membership, whether it's brand new today or you've been a member for a decade, it gives you a chance to win multiple prizes that we will draw on January 2nd. As you see on the screen, a 22-inch Blackstone is one of the prizes, an Engel backpack cooler, Hook sunglasses of your choice from our great friends at Hook Sunglasses, a great local business that continues to grow and provide fantastic frames and lenses for anglers and support habitat. We also have a boat paddleboard, an inflatable paddleboard that'll be ready by the time the weather is ready for you to get out paddleboarding next summer. So again, join, renew, spread the word. We will be drawing this live on January 2nd, and it's a chance for you to support our work. If you want to support on a higher level, we also have our Blackstone Life Membership Campaign. This will continue into 2025, so if you're not quite ready to commit now, you can do so at a later date. Life memberships are the opportunity that people provide a pledge of $1,000, which stays here in Maryland to support our programs. In our campaign we're doing here, we're saying thank you to our past life members and asking them to give a $500 donation, and if they do, they receive a 22-inch griddle here with the lid. And then if you give a $1,000 donation, you become a life member. You get the pizza insert plus the 17-inch griddle. And so those two work together. You can cook bacon and eggs in the morning and then place the pizza insert in there and get a pie ready for lunch. And then the last level we're asking for is at $1,500. If you make that pledge, you will receive a 36-inch freestanding griddle, the Omnivore griddle there. So that's another way that by giving us support, we give a gift back by working with partners like Blackstone, and the funds stay here to support our program. So again, become a life member today. There's also an option to become a life member, give a $1,000 pledge, but make the payments at a quarterly level. That program is not available directly through this portal I'm showing you right now, but please reach out if you'd like to do that. We can do that for you. And so the last thing I have to share is related to our advocacy work. On December 16th, you probably saw and may have participated or listened along to the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission Striped Bass Board meeting. I am a striped bass board member. I'm the legislative proxy for the state of Maryland, one of 3 representatives. And at most of the meetings, I speak and share some thoughts on what the board is deliberating. You can follow these meetings on YouTube. You can watch them after the fact. On the 16th, we adjourned at around 10 a.m. And I think we ended at, I guess adjourned is ended. Anyway, we started at 10 a.m. and we finished, I think, at about 5 or 4:30. And so quite a long debate, deliberation, trying to figure out what is next for striped bass, something that the board members absolutely take seriously. What we saw there was that board members were considering the difference between taking board action and changing regulations for 2025 right there in that meeting, telling all the member states of the commission, go home and change your regs, or considering an addendum, which would be the standard process that we walk through with public comment period to determine what new regulations would be. Well, an addendum will take about a year, and so it can be implemented by the 2026 fishery, not the 2025 fishery. And that's ultimately the path that the board took. As a board member, again, I spoke up on my thoughts as we headed down this potential 2 paths. And, you know, in my head, I think of it as 2 paths because there's almost 2 different fisheries that we have right now. We have a large number of spawning stock biomass. By the data, we have more 8+ age fish than we did in 1995, the year that the fishery was determined to be rebuilt. And so there's a lot of big fish out there that show a projection of these 2015 and 2018 year classes now getting bigger and older and all being in the spawning stock. You're seeing the spawning stock population increase. There are projections that we will meet the target in 2029, even though we have a less likelihood of meeting that target than we could have had we been more conservative up until this point. But the point is that there's a lot of big fish. And as of right now, our trajectory is in the right direction based on the management plan. That said, we know there's failed abundance or lack of abundance and failed recruitment happening in the Chesapeake now for 6 straight years. Well, in the Chesapeake, we fish on 4, 5, and 6-year-old fish. We're already seeing it. We're already feeling it. Commercial fisheries are catching their quota, but markets are challenged, and there's some give and take happening right now with the striped bass fishery. Ultimately, I feel like the addendum process is the best way to craft the Chesapeake Bay fishery for our prevailing conditions that we see right now. From the environmental conditions which happen each spring, we're seeing a less and less spawning success. This has happened before with striped bass, but it's never happened under current conditions. And so I'd like to see us approach balancing our fishery and access to our fishery with what we know about prevailing abundance, with what we know about efficiency of gear, value of the resource, so on and so forth. And we shape our season so that we can allow recreational and commercial fisheries to happen in this low abundance period and not take too much from the resource to rebuild it to levels that everybody wants. The reality is we need more abundance of young fish. We need better young of year performance in order to regrow this fishery. Without these young fish recruiting, we're not going to have a fishery in the future. People are aware of that and recognize that. Do we understand how low we're going to go? No, because none of us can tell the future. But the spawning stock that's out there that people are enjoying right now is something to benefit from and utilize, and do so in as sustainable as possible fashion, because we need those fish to be the spawners for the future. And so it's that tale of 2 fisheries, and we have to find balance. And again, ultimately, the board was not willing after a tied failed vote to go forward with closing portions of the recreational fishery coastwide and taking only a 5% reduction in the commercial fishery while aiming for a 9% in recreational. That was the option that ultimately failed and led the board to taking the addendum pathway, which will take a little longer, but hopefully come up with a more robust management outcome. And that's why I spoke in support of the addendum when we finally reached that point at that meeting. It was an addendum a perfect path forward? No. I wish there was a smoother opportunity or a better opportunity and a smoother path towards conserving more fish now. But unfortunately, it's a complicated management system that we have, and we're sharing these fish across multiple sectors and communities and people with all sorts of different goals, objectives, and reasons why this fishery is important to them. And so, like it or not, the system is complicated, but there's also an opportunity for you to get involved, and that's what I encourage folks to do. That's how I ended up sitting in a seat at the table, is becoming an advocate and volunteering with CCA. And here I am today, trying to find the right solutions for the resource first so that anglers can access it and enjoy it. A part of that is making sure we have food for these fish. And it's not always talked about in our board meetings, our striped bass board meetings, how important things like menhaden are and the status of them driving potential success for future striped bass. That's common sense that so many anglers understand. We see the interaction between bait and game fish on the water. We know how important bait is. We also recognize how almost blind some menhaden management has been for decades in our country. It has advanced in recent years, but it isn't advancing fast enough. Thankfully, right now, menhaden management is looking at how can we be more protective of the level of, or more precautionary when it comes to harvesting menhaden out of the Chesapeake Bay, the Atlantic coast's most important estuary, right? You got to have a balance of good food fish if we're going to have striped bass ever build back to the levels we want them to build back to. Also, we have blue catfish and other things happening in the bay that are changing the face of it. So wouldn't it be responsible to be precautionary in the level of harvest of menhaden that we allow to happen in the Chesapeake Bay, instead of relying on coast-wide management plans and coast-wide projections to tell us what to do in the Chesapeake? We need science, we need data, we need a better assessment of what's happening here before we say that 51,000 metric tons of removals by the reduction fishery is acceptable. That's not based on science. It has been reduced in recent years, but we need to have a better and more objective look at what is the right level of menhaden to harvest, when and where, to make sure that we can balance the needs of people like our sport fishing community and other commercial fisheries, but also our ecosystem. And it's not just fish, it's everything. It's our bird predators, and it's the system as a whole we need to try and make sure we're assessing and managing better. And so whether it's striped bass or menhaden, I hope that in 2025 we see better ways to look at things on a Chesapeake Bay lens and better manage on that resolution, because the time is now. In fact, the time was decades ago to better our scientific management of our resources in the Chesapeake Bay. Do so by utilizing better recreational fisheries data, more timely commercial data, more traceability, and more things that make sure we can maintain value of this resource for the people that it belongs to, and that's all of us. And so whether you're out there catching a striped bass right now, hoping to catch your personal best and let it go on its way, or if you're enjoying some bluefin tuna off the coast, those things are being driven by a healthy ecosystem, healthy habitats, healthy water quality, and leaders that sit around our management tables having a sound mind to make sure that they're balancing things for the future and present use of that resource. It's not easy, but we can do it all together in a better way in 2025 and beyond by having your voice and by having you involved. And so thank you so much to everybody that has supported CCA's work throughout the year. We have so much more to share, and we'll continue to. So again, if you're not following us, if you haven't joined us, follow us along on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Join us, sign up for our newsletter, go to our website, participate in our events, and get involved in CCA so we can ensure the health and conservation of our resources and your access to them as an angler in 2025 and beyond. Thank you and Happy New Year.